What's up, everybody? This is Disco Demonic Hydrophonic. Today, I'm going to teach you a technique. So basically, I was in meditation with La Santa Muerte, and I asked her because there was a lot of times, like in a lot of the books that you read, especially when it comes to working in graveyards, where you need to go to the graveyard and give offerings and stuff like that. But because of where you live, maybe that could be difficult for you. So this has been an issue for me. Like I had to be really sneaky going into certain graveyards. You cannot go past a certain time. You know, so people will call the cops on you. A lot of the graveyards, the way they're situated over here, it's kind of like just difficult. Everywhere that I've gone has something around it. Even the last one where I talked about was kind of secluded. There was apartment complexes around it, and people see you in there lighting candles. I'm sure they're gonna call the fucking cops on you. Christianity is a big thing where I live, so it's like it would be difficult. So in meditation, in ritual, I asked Santa Muerte, meditative ritual, what can I do in order to, to give offerings that aren't so like clandestine, you know what I'm saying? So she told me that to use vril, to use the vril technique that I had learned, and to give the offerings that way. So, and astral projection. Now, so with astral projection, there's different proficiencies in astral projection. Whenever I go to graveyards to kind of chill out, and there's like a certain energy that's there, and I'm very comfortable with that energy. I'm empowered by the energy. So this is how, when I first started astral projecting, that I knew that I was actually getting results, because I had that exact same energy hit me when I was just sitting in a meditative space over here in my room, and I just decided to give it a shot and just go through a portal that I had created, and went through that portal, and I was in the graveyard and I could feel the energy. And so the rest, I basically had to kind of imagine it, which is basically going to be the way, everybody's different, but the way you're going to start your astral projection journey. Okay, so if you're not sensitive to energies, just use your imagination, and that's going to start like building and building and building to where you're actually astral projecting. You can use hypnosis techniques and things like that. I think there's a lot of online stuff you can use. So anyways, what I did in order to do this was, I'm sure that you have seen, I should have drawn this out before, but since I didn't, I feel kind of like an idiot, but I'm going to draw it out really quick because it's not that difficult. But you get the triangle, the manifestation triangle, and draw a circle, and then you connect the lines to the circle. And I know this is supposed to be used as for manifestation. I have very successfully used this as a portal. And this is what I used whenever I traveled through the circle, traveled through there, and went to the graveyard. And I was able to do meditations there. Actually, I rose the black sun. I did a bunch of stuff while I was in the graveyard. So it was really cool. And this is when I realized that this shit is fucking, I had not felt that energy with any other meditations except for when I went to the graveyard with this technique. So you basically just envision the triangle in front of you, have the circle, draw the connecting lines to the circle. You can move it around. It's almost like a screen, like when you're doing set on the computer. It's basically the same thing. You make it bigger, smaller, whatever you want to do. And then you just basically travel through that circle, through it, and then you're in the space that you want to envision. So the more you go to that place, the easier it will be for you to envision that place there. One thing that I also did is I also actually, because I would go there so much, I created a sigil based upon something that I had seen at the graveyard that looked just like a sigil to me. So I made a sigil in order to be able to connect with that graveyard easier. And so this helped my connections as well to the graveyard. So whenever I actually projected through the portal, I could feel the energy. It was really, really cool. It was cool for me the first time because it was like, whoa, I was getting results, and I knew it wasn't just like imagining. You know what I'm saying? Imagining is the first step, but it becomes better, So anyway, so basically the vril technique you're going to use, let's say when you go into a graveyard, traditionally, with several systems that I've studied, it talks about, not studied like super intensely, but just kind of intensely and not so intensely. There is the gatekeeper of the graveyard or cemetery. There is the main entity of the cemetery, which is in the middle of the graveyard, the center point of the graveyard, most of the time. but sometimes it's not. I went to a graveyard, the one that I frequent more often, and I asked the graveyard, like, where can I give these offerings to you? Because in the middle of the graveyard was the office. It was the very center of the graveyard was like the office where people, I can't go into the office and give offerings. You know what I'm saying? That's where, like, you can go in and find out where people are buried if you have family there or whatever. So I asked the spirit of the graveyard where I can give offerings, and it led me to another space. I saw something in my mind. It told me to drive around. When I drove around, I saw the exact image I had seen in my mind. And mind you, I had already been establishing a connection with the graveyard, so I can go and come there freely already. Like, I have my set up the way that I do things at that particular graveyard. So anyway, I found the spot, and then I was able to give offerings there, like more in a hidden spot, so that in a space that was more hidden, so they could accumulate the energy from whatever the offerings were. So that being said, so. And then from there, you want to go to wherever you're going to collect any of your things from. Like if you're going to collect graveyard dirt or graveyard water, things like that, you want to give an offering, especially if it's close to like a headstone or something. I'm normally drawn to a headstone when I go into a new graveyard, and it normally coincides with something that relates to me. It's how I know for sure that they want me to go there. Sometimes I feel a pull in my arm. I've mentioned that before. Sometimes I just feel drawn to a certain spot. So follow that intuition, follow that draw. That's them talking to you. And then from there, you want to give an offering there to them for whatever it is you're going to take, dirt or water or whatever. If I'll tell you different techniques how I do. I get like either for the dirt, you can just dig it up, take a jar with you and put it in the jar, and then take the jar. Or with water, what I do is I normally get like a vial or some sort of container with the water that's like leak proof, and I find somewhere where I can stash it and let it sit there for however long the elements allow, or however long until I remember, and it just soaks up that energy from the graveyard, and then I go, and then that's my graveyard water. And I actually ask the spirits, and I give an offering like a quarter or something, something, flowers, whatever is you're drawn to give, and that's what I give. So okay, so as I was talking to Santa Muerte, she told those are the three different ones you want to give the offerings to. Spots you want to give the offering to. So she told me what you can do is, using the vril technique, you can travel astrally through the portal, go into the graveyard, and then give the offerings. So basically what you do is, I'm just going to use one candle because just for the sake of the video, but you probably want to hold 3 candles because it's one for each one. If you're going to have a cigar or something like that, you're going to use the same thing. I don't need to go show you all those things. It's all the same thing. You're just going to hold them in your hand. And basically you want to go backwards. So the last place you're going to go, and I'm not really sure if this matters. This is kind of like something that I do. But the last place you're going to go is the headstone. So whatever you're going to give there, draw that in first. And I've explained the vril technique, but if you have not seen that video and don't feel like watching it, I'll explain it really quick. So basically what you're going to do is, here's my lighter. I light the candle. So you light the candle, and you hold it, and then you draw in the energy from the candle, from the flame, everything in, you draw it, and draw it into your aura. Alright, so you draw that in. This is the vril technique. So you draw that shit into your aura, and it goes all the way. You draw it into your aura like a layer around your aura that surrounds you. Right? So you basically just do that and just meditate and just draw the energy in around you, all the way around you, to where it's almost like a shell around you. Right? So you do that with, you can do the 3 candles at once. Whatever technique you want to use. Like I said, I go backwards. So what I would do is hold a candle, a flower, or something like that, what I'm going to give to each spot. I was also told that if you don't have a candle, if you want to give during the day, that pastries can take the place of candles. That was for me. I don't know if you want to try that. You can if you want to, but if you're doing this technique, you don't need to worry about that. So basically, you draw in the candle and the flower first, or whatever you're going to give to the actual gravestone where you take your stuff from. And if you don't go to an actual gravestone, you still want to leave something, right? So take whatever you're going to give first. And then next, you do the second one, whatever you're going to give to the entity of the graveyard. And Eventually you will intuit, but for a rule of thumb, you want to give like coins or something like that. So coins are pretty easy to go somewhere and just kind of toss them. So that's not really something I would really be too worried about. But you can do this if you want to. Just have some couple of, like 3 coins in your hand. Put them maybe right here. Have it here. Maybe a cigar or a cigarette, some sort of tobacco. And then draw that in. I would light it just as you're going to give it, as hot as the way I would take it in, right? So then you draw that energy around you, and then you move on to the next one. Then you go like for the gatekeeper, which you're going to give the gatekeeper. So then blah blah blah. So then when you go in, you do your portal. You're going to give to the gatekeeper first, and you're going to draw that vril that you soaked up, that you drew into your aura, give it out into your to present to whatever it is you're going through in the different phases of the offerings you're giving, and draw it out first. Draw it out, like just materialize it in your hand in the graveyard, right? So you're astrally there, and if, like I said, you can't astral project yet. You're just imagining yourself there, and you create it with that energy. It's already in there, so you're drawing in that energy, and then you're putting the energy back out. Basically, is what you're doing. And so you draw the energy, and you present the candle lit with the cigar or with a cigarette, whatever, to the gatekeeper. You can imagine him like taking it from you, and then you go to the center, give whatever it is you're going to give to the center, the entity of the actual cemetery, and then go to the headstone where you're going to give the last offering. Give that offering, and so for there you've given your offerings. So now you can even go like the next day or the next time you go. You're cool, and I would still go in and kind of toss some coins here and there. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would do. It just feels more. I just, maybe it's a habit. I don't know. But that's what I like to do. Toss coins, and I would go with 3. Or I was told from like an old hoodoo practitioner to do always opposites. I think he was a hoodoo practitioner. I really don't know. He was a practitioner. Anyway, so he told me always do odd numbers, not opposites, but odd numbers. So whatever the number is, as long as it's an odd number, you can do 1, 3, 5, whatever, as long as it's an odd number, is what he told me. So give your coins. I give 3, and then you go from there. And then after that, you take your cemetery water or your grave dirt, whatever. And normally, the spirits kind of watch out for you. There's been a few instances where it would have been very difficult for me to grab certain things, like the little rabbit that I got from the graveyard. I asked if he wanted to come home with me. It's like a ceramic rabbit. I think I've shown a video of him before. And then Bartholomew. I named him Bartholomew. He told me his name was Bartholomew. Anyways, so you leave something. But anyway, something happened to where there was like a funeral procession right there that day. It was so weird. It just happened exactly awesomely, So things will happen, and that will help you kind of get away with it if it's something that you need to kind of watch out for. Like I said, at night, it's kind of like more kind of sketchy for me because like I'm not really super worried about getting arrested. I do have a criminal record, so I don't want to get involved in all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? It would look very suspicious. I don't want to get kicked out of the graveyard to where I can't go anymore. So I try to be as cautious as possible, and that's maybe my street style. Like I was always cautious. I did the shit, but I was still super cautious, knowing what was going to happen when I was going in. Even maybe do a couple little practice runs for shit just to be sure that I was going to get away with whatever it is I was doing, So, but that's neither here nor there. And then from there, man, so that's that. But I want to refer to, I made a shielding video not too long ago. So when you do things like this, you want to do some shielding. So the reason I made that video is because this would have been a lot longer if I would have had to describe all these techniques. So the first thing you're going to do is repeat the process in the shielding video that I made before this one, maybe right before this one, but just refer to the shielding video, watch that, and use this technique, and then you can go give your offerings into the graveyard. Now, if this does not replace you actually going into the graveyard, you still want to build that connection. So don't just think this is just like if you can't make it, something happens, like if it's raining but you want to go or something, like it's very difficult where you are, you don't have a car, or like whatever reasoning, this is a way to give offerings without having to actually be there, but you still want to go to the graveyard, interact with the graveyard, just become, learn the graveyard, let your energies kind of mix up and stuff like that. It's a really good energy to go to graveyards once you get used to it, I guess. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I've grown up next to a graveyard since I was a kid, so I've always been acclimated to the energies. But yeah, that's it, man. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, share it with your friends. If you hate it, share it with your enemies. Take it easy.